Hello everyone, my name is Jezah Frannie S. Sañado-Belleza. I am a lawyer and I work for the Department of Justice. I was requested by your professor to introduce to you the Philippine government agencies responsible in IT program. The first one in your list is the DICT. DICT stands for Department of Information and Communications Technology. The Department of Information and Communications Technology was created by a law, that is Republic Act number 10844, otherwise known as the DICT Act of 2015, which means that everything you need to know about the agency is contained in this law, from its creation, powers, functions, and even its funding. It is under the executive branch of the government, which means that it operates under the authority of the president. I assume you already know this. ICT, as defined under said law, is a totality of electronic means to access, to create, collect, store, process, receive, transmit, present, and disseminate information. Why do you think this law was created? That is because the state recognizes that information and technology play a vital role in nation building, and that is why there is a need to promote, develop, and encourage the use of ICT not only in enhancing key public services, but also to empower the people. We are the people, by giving us accessible information, among others. And in line with this, there is a need to regulate the use of the ICT so that the basic rights of the people, such as the right to data privacy, are not trampled upon, and ICT private service providers do not go beyond the authority granted them by the state in the operation and maintenance of the ICT. And as you will hear later, it is not just the DICT that was created to protect from abuses certain consumer and private business rights. What are the powers and functions of the ICT? First is policy and planning. So the DICT is mandated to formulate, recommend, and implement appropriate policy and programs to ensure the development of the ICT so that the Philippines is at par with the rest of the world when it comes to the use of ICT, meaning di tayo na pag-iiwanan. But how does it do this? Of course, it is through research, and it also coordinates with other agencies such as the DepEd, CHED, and TESDA for the development and promotion of ICT education. Second, improved public access. So the DICT is mandated to prescribe rules and regulations in the establishment, operation, and maintenance of ICT infrastructures. What do you mean by ICT infrastructures? These refer to facilities and supplies. It is mandated as well to establish a free internet service that can be accessed not only in government offices but also in public areas using the most cost-effective telecommunications technology. They do this by partnering with private service providers as may be necessary. Example, recently free public Wi-Fi was inaugurated along EDSA. The government is launching free Wi-Fi for all, especially during this time of crisis, where students need to be doing online classes at home. Third, we have resource sharing and capacity building. So how is resource sharing done? The DICT is mandated to harmonize and coordinate all national ICT plans and initiatives to make sure that knowledge and information are shared. They do this by harmonizing database building and the networking linkages among government agencies, which is in line with e-government objectives. What is e-government, by the way? It is the use of ICT by the government and the public to enhance the access to and delivery of government services, to bring about efficiency, responsiveness, accountability, and transparency in government service. This is the ultimate objective of the department. And how is capacity building done? DICT is responsible for prescribing the qualifications of the ICT personnel behind government ICT infrastructures and the qualification standards in the operation of government ICT infrastructures and systems. You know what ICT infrastructures are. They are hardware, software, network, and other services. You know them more than I do. Moving on, number 4 of its functions is consumer protection and industry development. So the DICT is mandated to make sure that the rights and welfare of both consumers and business users to privacy, security, confidentiality, and matters relating to ICT are protected. It does this by coordinating with other agencies, example the DTI, in matters relating to the promotion of trade and investment opportunities in ICT, and private sector and international bodies. It is also the one responsible for formulating guidelines in the implementation of ICT projects for government agencies. There is actually more to their functions than what I've just mentioned. I just wanted to give you an overview of what the DICT does. Moving on, there are 3 agencies attached to the DICT. They are the NTC, or the National Telecommunications Commission, the NPC, or the National Privacy Commission, and the CICC, or the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordination Center. What is the NTC, or the National Telecommunications Commission? It is Republic Act 3846, or the Radio Control Law, which provided for the regulation of radio stations and radio communications in the Philippines. So it started with that. Basically, this law required that for any person, company, association, or corporation to construct, install, or operate a radio station within the Philippines, a franchise should first be obtained from the legislature, the Congress. What is a franchise, by the way? It is a privilege conferred upon telecommunications entities by Congress, authorizing them to engage in a certain type of telecommunications service. Then after having obtained this franchise, the construction or installation shall not begin without a permit being granted to them by the Secretary of Commerce and Communications. Take note that this law was approved back in 1931. It was then the Secretary of Commerce and Communications who was empowered to regulate the establishment, use, and operation of all radio stations and all forms of radio communications and transmissions, as well as to issue rules and regulations. Later, there was an executive order by the late President Ferdinand Marcos. What is an executive order? It is one issued by the President, but it has the same force and effect as any other law or statute passed by the Congress. So in this executive order number 546, the NTC was constituted in the organization of the Ministry for Transportation and Communications. Here, the Board of Communications and the Telecommunications Control Bureau, earlier created, were integrated into a single entity to be known as the NTC. In short, those 2 bureaus were abolished and their functions were transferred to the NTC. What are the functions of the Commission? There's actually a lot, but these are the most important ones that I think you should take note so you would not be clueless as to what the NTC does. I'm sure you've heard about the NTC many times in the past few months with the cease and desist order it issued against ABS-CBN because of the expiration of its 25-year franchise. So what are these functions? The key functions to remember are, number 1, the issuance of a certificate of public convenience for the operation of communications utilities and services, radio communication systems, wire or wireless telephone or telegraph systems, radio and television broadcasting system, and other similar public utilities. Next, we have the regulation of areas of operation of particular operators of public service communications, and determine and prescribe charges or rates pertinent to their operation, but there is an exception to this. Next is the granting of permits for the use of radio frequencies for wireless, telephone, and telegraph systems, and radio communication systems, including amateur radio stations and radio and television broadcasting systems. It also supervises and inspects the operation of radio stations and telecommunications facilities, and it undertakes the examination and licensing of radio operators, and whenever necessary, the registration of radio transmitters and transceivers. I'm not really knowledgeable about this. Transceivers and transmitters. Anyway, in Executive Order number 205 by President Corazon Aquino, the NTC was also given the power to grant Certificate of Authority to the operation of cable antenna television system in the Philippines by Philippine citizens or by corporations, cooperatives, or associations wholly owned and managed by Philippine citizens. The NTC works hand in hand with the DICT in improving the processes in the government to provide better services to both citizens and the businesses. Next, we have the National Privacy Commission. So what are the functions of the National Privacy Commission? It is to administer and implement the provisions of the Data Privacy Act and to monitor and ensure compliance of the country with international standards set for data protection. The NPC is mandated to receive complaints, investigate, facilitate, or enable settlement of complaints through the use of alternative dispute resolution processes. Example of these processes are mediation and conciliation, where parties amicably settle. They also adjudicate, award indemnity on matters affecting any personal information. But in resolving any complaint or investigation, except where amicable settlement has actually been reached by the parties, the Commission may be given access to personal information to perform such function. Okay, so I just changed my glasses. Let's move on to the next agency. We have the Department of Justice. Under the Cybercrime Prevention Act, or Republic Act number 10175, there was created an Office of Cybercrime within the DOJ, designated as the central authority in all matters related to international mutual assistance and extradition for cybercrime and cyber-related matters. Among its powers are: number 1, act as a competent authority for all requests for assistance for investigation or proceedings concerning cybercrimes, facilitate the provisions of legal or technical advice, preservation and production of data, collection of evidence, giving legal information and location of suspects. Number 2, act on complaints or referrals and cost investigation and prosecution of cybercrimes and other violations of the cybercrime law. Number 3, issue preservation orders. This refers to preservation of computer data addressed to service providers. 4, administer oaths, issue subpoena, and summon witnesses to appear in an investigation or proceedings for cybercrime. 5, require the submission of timely and regular reports, including pre-operation, post-operation, and investigation results and such other documents from the PNP and the NBI for monitoring and review, and issue and promulgate guidelines and advisories and procedures in all matters related to cybercrime investigation, forensic evidence recovery, and forensic data analysis consistent with industry standard practices. So those are just some of the functions of the Office of the Cybercrime within the DOJ. The Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, or CICC, was also created to act as an interagency body under the administrative supervision of the Office of the President for policy coordination among concerned agencies and for the formulation and enforcement of the National Cybersecurity Plan. Among its powers and functions are to formulate a national cybersecurity plan and extend immediate assistance for the suppression of real-time commission of cybercrime offenses through a computer emergency response team, to coordinate the preparation of appropriate and effective measures to prevent and suppress cybercrime activities, to monitor cybercrime cases being handled by participating law enforcement and prosecution agencies, to coordinate the support and participation of the business sector, local government units, and non-government organizations in cybercrime prevention programs and other related projects, to recommend the enactment of appropriate laws, issuances, measures, and policies, to call upon any government agency to render assistance in the accomplishment of the CICC's mandated tasks and functions, and to perform all other matters related to cybercrime prevention and suppression, including capacity building. For the enforcement and implementation of said law, the National Bureau of Investigation, or the NBI, and the Philippine National Police, or the PNP, are made responsible for the efficient and effective law enforcement of the provisions of the law. The NBI and the PNP were mandated to organize a cybercrime unit or center manned by special investigators to exclusively handle cases involving violations of said law. The computer or technology crime divisions, or units responsible for the investigation of cybercrimes, are required to submit timely and regular reports and such other documents as may be required to the DOJ for review and monitoring, as what I have mentioned earlier. That is why the PNP and the NBI has an anti-cybercrime group and a cybercrime division respectively. Law enforcement authorities with due cause are authorized to collect or record by technical or electronic means traffic data in real time associated with specified communications transmitted by means of the computer system. What does that mean? That means that the unit or division of the PNP and the NBI are allowed to collect traffic data, which refers to the communication's origin, destination, route, time, date, size, duration, or type of underlying service, but not content nor identities. All other data collected or seized or disclosed will require a court warrant. Remember that any evidence procured without a valid warrant or beyond the authority of the same shall be inadmissible for any proceeding before any court or tribunal. These law enforcement authorities, therefore, can search, seize, and examine computer data where a search and seizure warrant is properly issued. Service providers are required to cooperate and assist law enforcement authorities in the collection or recording of the information. So what are the functions of the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group? Basically, to investigate all cybercrimes and other crimes in which ICT was used in the commission of criminal acts or the object of attack, conduct data recovery and forensic analysis on all computers, computer peripherals and storage devices, and other digital evidences seized by PNP units and any other law enforcement agencies within the country, conduct vulnerability assessment on the security of information and communications technology in both public and private IT infrastructures, provide technical investigative support to various law enforcement agencies, both local and international, against cyber-enabled criminality, maintain an intelligence database, various underground blogs, web forums, chat rooms, and other platforms being utilized by various organized criminal groups. Establish and maintain a modern digital forensic laboratory. So there is such a thing as digital forensic laboratory. Conduct continuous specialized trainings and seminars in coordination with the PNP Training Service and Anti-Cybercrime operations. Maintain linkages with different PNP offices, local government agencies, other government agencies on matters pertaining to anti-cybercrime operations, and perform other tasks as may be directed by the Chief of the PNP. The question now is, where do you go to report a cybercrime? You may go to either the PNP or the NBI, whichever is more accessible. The Philippine National Police is the civilian national police force of the Philippines, while the NBI is an agency under the DOJ responsible for handling and solving major high-profile cases that are in the interest of the nation. Example, extrajudicial or extralegal killings by state security forces against media practitioners or activists, violations of the Cybercrime Prevention Act, violations of the IPC, of the E-Commerce Act. So those are just examples. It also coordinates with other national and local police agencies in the maintenance of peace and order, and acts as a national clearinghouse of criminal and other information for the use of all prosecuting and law enforcement entities of the Philippines. So say you are in the province and would like to report a cybercrime, and the PNP is more accessible to you because in each city or municipality there is a police station. Then you go to the PNP. So do you just go to the PNP and report? No. Say a cyber libel was committed against you. There was a libelous Facebook post against you. What you need to do is to have a screenshot of the post and proof that such post was actually seen by the public. When you go to the police station, you ask that the incident be entered in the police blotter. Then the investigator will assist you. He or she will record your statements as to the incident, and which will later on be subscribed by you before a prosecutor or any lawyer authorized to administer oaths. Once your statement has been taken in the police station, the police now will assist you in filing your complaint. If you live in a city, you go to the city prosecution office, otherwise you go to the provincial prosecution office. There you will have to appear before a prosecutor, sign the document containing your statements, and take an oath before the prosecutor. Now this will constitute your sworn statement, which will be filed together with your proof and supporting affidavits. The affidavits of your witnesses, if you have any. The prosecution office will then investigate and come up with its findings through a resolution. If there is probable cause to file a case against the respondent, then a case will be filed in court. But if there is none, example, when not all the elements of the crime are established in your complaint, then the prosecution will dismiss your complaint. So that's what happens when you institute an action. Who may file a complaint? Anyone may file a complaint, whether you're a minor or you're not, whether you're a natural or a juridical person. What is the scope? Of course, all cybercrime offenses, all cybercrime incidents. And as I mentioned, you only need to have a sworn statement and all your proof, supporting documents that you will have to file before the prosecution service. Basically, that's it. So those are the Philippine government agencies responsible in information technology. I hope you learned something. Thank you for your time.